And welcome to day 11 of Commitmas. We're here today with Rob Nelson, who's going to be going through the Git Rebase command with us. Rob, how's it going?
Going good. Yourself?
Living the dream. I'd rather be doing this than sitting in the hot aisle of a bunch of servers right now, flashing firmware. So I'll take this nice little break. A few show notes before we get started today. If you've got questions, you can hit us up on Twitter at Commitmas or at vBrownbag, or use the Commitmas or vBrownbag hashtag. You can also use the GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar question window. Past recordings you can find at bit.ly/commitmas2, and of course our GitHub repo at Commitmas, 30 Days of Commitmas 2015, so you can see what's going on, our upcoming schedule, and keep up with some of the challenges for all of these different learning segments. With that, I am going to make you the presenter, Rob. So that should be you now.
Okay, and hopefully you can see my screen now.
I can, yep.
All right, today I'm going to talk about Git Rebase. My name is Rob Nelson, rnelson0 on Twitter, GitHub. My blog is rnelson0.com. I've been using Git for a little over a year now. I will not profess any sort of expertise, but I will talk about some lessons learned with rebasing today, and I will show you some of the ways you can use Rebase. Certainly nothing exhaustive, but something to help people get comfortable. So what is Rebase? The description from the documentation says we will forward port local commits to the updated upstream head, which means exactly nothing to me. But thankfully, they include a couple nice graphics. If you type git help rebase, you'll see the same thing in a man page. And this is kind of helpful here, where it shows this graph of a list of changes. You have your master branch, has changes D, E, F, G. And back when E was the head or the tip of master, you created a branch, you made a few changes, A, B, C, and that's what you have ready to go. The problem is they're all kind of hanging off of E. There may be changes in F or G that would affect the changes you made. Or you just want to be polite and make sure that your stuff works, especially if you have any sort of unit testing. Your unit tests that are running in this topic are only running off everything from up to E and then your ABC here off the top. Things in F and G are not tested, and if you merge them, you could break things. So the polite thing to do is to rebase and reapply your history of commits on top of it. And when you do that, it now looks like this: D, E, F, G, and then these new commits, A prime, B prime, C prime. It's important to remember when we rebase, we are going to change history. So some people may know that Git uses a checksum hash. So the checksums are actually going to be different for these three commits. The changes themselves will be the same, but how you would address them will change. And an easy way to do this, assuming that this is master on the origin branch, is this command here, git rebase origin master. And that will simply take your set of history and apply it on top. And if you've been following along with Commitmas, we've seen this in a few places where people talk about replaying or fast forwarding, and that's basically similar to what we're doing here. And that's one way of using Rebase. Something else we also need to know, I think on Wednesday the 9th, Apollo Caitlin talked about merge conflicts. It is possible that if F and G touch the same part of a file that you touched in one of your changes up here, you're going to get a merge conflict. So go check out Apollo's session on how to resolve those merge conflicts. And then when you're done, you have to git add the files that you had to fix, and then you will git rebase to continue on. And if for some reason you don't like what's happening, this command here at the end, git rebase abort, will get you back to up here. So this simply takes all the stuff you've done and reapplies it on top. We can also rewrite history. Now, as I note here, you are technically rewriting history when you're reapplying your commits on top of head. But we can do a little bit more. There's a number of options here. It shows 5 different options. Pick just means use the commit as it is. Reword lets us edit the commit message. Edit lets us use that commit, but actually brings us to that point in the history and allows us to make further changes before continuing. So we could say edit on change B or commit B, and we can actually make some additional changes before it would apply C on top. This can be helpful if you had like a simple typo in a README or something like that that you wanted to kind of get as you were going through without creating another commit at the end. We also have squash, which will take that commit, say B or C, and apply it to the previous one. And it just basically merges the 2 deltas into a single delta. So if you add 2 lines in one and add another line in the next commit, when you merge those, you'll have those 3 lines are part of that one commit now. And that'll let you keep the commit log message, and you can do some edits as well. And then finally, fix up allows you to actually take that change, smush it into the previous one, and then forget the commit message, commit log message. There's one option here that isn't really described except for this warning, what looks like a warning here. If you go and you make a change and you decide that that change really is not needed, you can do a rebase and just delete that line, and that change will be gone. If you are doing local development on your branch, feel free to go ahead and do that. If you're working on somebody else's branch or on master, don't ever do that. You will completely distort the history, and in fact, rebases should only be done on your branches, never on the master, never on shared branches, because it will screw up the history for everybody. If you've been playing with Commitmas, I'm sure you've gotten to a point where you've broken things and had to just delete your local cache, recheck out from GitHub or upstream, and start over. And if you do something like editing or rebasing on top of master, you'll cause other people to have to do that. So those are some of the options that you can do. And it will also say, I'm showing you how to do things. There are a number of different mentalities about how you should rewrite history. Some people simply want you to follow this top option where you replay your commit history on top of master. Other people want a single change to be a single commit. Now, for you developing it, you might have taken 20 edits to get everything right, had a few typos, had some bugs that y'all fixed, and you've got this history of 20 commits, and sometimes people want you to get that down to 1. Other companies and organizations want to preserve that history. So follow the best practice of the people that you're working with, yourself or others, but use this when possible to help you advance your work. And on the 30 Days of Commitmas repo in the Challenge 11 directory, this README kind of goes through, describes everything I talked about here, and gives some examples of what we have out there. And a note here at the bottom, don't forget when you're doing these rebases, this is all in your branch. After you make changes, you need to push them up to the origin or upstream remote. But this challenge kind of details it out, and we'll go through a demo in just a second. One other note is this, that you're going to, because you rewrote history, need to use this -F flag. -F stands for force, and it can be destructive. You are forcing a new history on top of that branch. So that branch upstream that's called whatever your topic is will actually essentially be destroyed and recreated with the new history from your side. I highly recommend running your command that you want and having it fail and then adding -F. You know, hit the up arrow and then add -F. If you do this command down here, this git push -F, it will not just push that topic branch, but every branch you have locally. And if it finds a conflict upstream, it will overwrite it. I may in the past have had an old version of the master branch and overwritten that on the upstream and lost about a day or two's worth of work. That's not something you want to do. if that does happen to you, there are ways to get around it through things like Git reflog, or in my case, I had a coworker who had just done a Git pull from master, so he was able to do a Git push -f and overwrite what I broke. Just a word of warning there. Jonathan, before I go on to the demo, have any questions shown up?
Nothing so far.
Okay. So we'll go into the demo here, and I have a separate repo for the challenge here. And I have a few branches. So I've got master. We'll check that out first. And if we look at our Git log, we just see there's the initial commit. If we check out our dirty commits and check out the log, this might be what you see when you're doing your own development. You've got the initial commit and then a series of 4 edits. I want to clean up the README, but I made some typos. Then I added a link, and in fact, I misspelled a word in my commit message, and then I used the wrong link, so I had to make another edit. This is the common stuff we all do, but these are good examples of maybe some commits that you want to clean up. And we want to get them to look like our clean commits. And if we take a look here, it's very clean. It's one edit or one commit with a simple message that tells us exactly what happened. It doesn't have a typo here for the word main, and it doesn't have any complaints about typos. So let's see how we do that. Small note, if you are unaware, there's the option of a minus after your checkout, and it will switch back to the previous branch, very similar to CD minus. Okay, so we want to do a Git Rebase, and we want to do this against origin master. Now, in this Git Rebase command, we could actually just rebase against master by leaving out the remote. That's our local master. I prefer to do this because sometimes my local master may be out of date from the upstream master. This forces it to look at that remote and do the diffs against that. If you're working on something yourself, you probably don't need to make that distinction, but when you're working with a large group that does multiple commits, that may become more important. I also like to add the -I for interactive flag. If you're just replaying history, you want to bring your stuff up to the against the master head. You don't really need that, but if you want to rewrite your history, interactive is recommended. When we run this, we get to see those different options. We can come in here and we could do a fix up, F for the word fix up, and that would squash edit 2 down onto edit 1 and take away the commit log message. And then here we could take edit 4 and we can squash it, which will take this commit, add it to this one, and then show us both messages and allow us to edit them. So if we commit that right now, we will see. It goes by real fast since this is small, but we can see it's rebasing. And so we got past edit 1, and then it went through some other rebases, and then we have this combination of 2 commits. These are the ones that we squashed without the fix up, so we keep the log message. And now we have a chance to fix this. We can come in here and we can say main, so we fix our typo, and then we don't really care about that, so we actually can get rid of it. Something else to note here, if you have this message here and this comment in here, on some versions of Git, it will preserve those blank lines as well, so you may want to knock that out before you go on and edit the message. So we can say edit 3A since we're making an edit. And just to show what this will look like, we save our changes and it carries on and it says everything's now been changed. So if we take a look at our history, we can see we now only have 2 commits, edit 1 which has edit 2 squashed on top of it, and edit 3A. We can also do another rebase. And another cool trick we can do here is say you had some changes that you wanted to be related to each other. Say we had 10 changes in here, and the change at the bottom, number 10, really went with the number 1. You can actually take out a line and paste it somewhere else, and it'll change the order of those commits. So if we commit this, we now have edit 3A at the top instead of edit 1. Oh, now we have a merge conflict. So we're going to need to do a git status. And we're going to find some things that changed. So we can actually, let's say we'll keep everything. We add our modified file, and then we continue on our rebase. Oops. Okay, and this time we want to keep the one at the top. And now when we look at our log history, we'll see that it actually goes in the other order. We have the initial commit, edit 3A, edit 1. And a few other things that we can show here is now we have this, this dirty commits. We can actually come out here. We will take a look at take a look at the repo, and we can make a pull request. Oops. We're going to go from dirty commits to master. So now you'll see here, this still has the original 4 edits I made because I haven't actually pushed anything upstream. That's fine. We can actually go ahead and create the pull request. And you see these commits in here. And then over here, you can do a git push origin, or let me check my repo names here. So I don't want to push to the upstream to the Commitmas version. I want to push to my local fork. And as I mentioned, it gets rejected because the history, the references have changed. And we can see that here if we look at these checksums, 8BBA, A8, 2FA, they don't match the numbers that show up down here because these commits have now changed and been rewritten. So we want to add -F, and as I mentioned, I like to just hit the up arrow and add the -F on the end. And it pushes the changes up. And if I come over here, you'll see it's now noted that there are some different edits, and you can see the checksums over here and the checksums down here are different. If we refresh this, the GitHub page shows the new edits, but it doesn't take out the old ones. So if we refresh it, we'll see nice and streamlined. So after you can do rebases to clean up work before you do pull request, and you can also do rebases as you go. So if somebody gives you some feedback that says, hey, this needs changed, or we'd like to see these 2 commits turned into 1, you can go ahead and make your change, then just your rebase, and then do your git push upstream. And it'll show in the pull request so everybody can see the changes. Jonathan, any questions come up on this?
Is there a memory implant you can use so I get this quicker? That was a joke.
Oh,
No. I'm joking around. No, this has been great. It's quiet on the Twitter and go to webinar front right now. I just need a lot of practice with this.
Yeah, and Git Rebase is a little tricky. If you are ever committing anything with a pull request and somebody asks you how to do it, feel free to ask for directions. Don't be afraid. Everybody's new to this at some point, and even if you've been working with this for a while, we all know Git, as soon as you think you have it figured out, Git will pull the rug out from underneath you. So play with Rebase, use it to help you clean up your changes before you send them upstream, and then once you get some feedback, go ahead and use a Rebase some more until you get things right.
Do you know of any GUI tools that support Rebase?
I don't. I mostly work in Vim and the shell, but I am certain that there are some. I just am not aware of them myself, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Just a question that came up. Last call for questions, folks, for Rob. Anything out there? If not, we should probably all go back to work now that we know how to use Rebase and get on that. Awesome. Rob, then thank you very much. Wraps up Commitmas Day 11.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out, and thanks for all of your work, too, with keeping Commitmas going this month. Very much appreciated.
Anytime. Go forth and Rebase.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.